Hello world, my name is Pete and this is my very first guitar lesson. What are you looking at? Well, you're actually looking at the gap between the strings and the neck fretboard of an acoustic guitar. Some of you out there may be wondering why I'm showing you this. Well, it's very important. When I was about 6 years old, my father bought me a guitar. It wasn't the best guitar in the world, looking back. One of the major problems with the guitar was this gap. And being only 6 years old, I had very little fingers, very small fingers, and I found it very difficult to press down on the strings and make contact with the fretboard on the neck because this gap was so large. I did persevere and eventually got myself a better guitar and improved, but looking back, I wish I'd had a better guitar to begin with. It would have been much easier. So if you already have a guitar, you may be able to pay a professional to set the guitar up for you. What do I mean by that? Well, you can adjust the gap between the strings and the neck, which is known as the action of a guitar. You hear people talk about the action of a guitar. What they're talking about is this gap between the strings and the fretboard on the neck. Now, you can reduce that gap, but you really need to pay a professional to do that for you. Now, for those of you who are just thinking about buying your first guitar, well, one of the things to look out for is this gap. Just try to buy a guitar where the gap is as small as possible. Now, you'll normally find that the more expensive a guitar is, the smaller this gap is. It's not always the case, but it's a general rule. Okay, that's my first tip. Now, there is an exception to every rule, and if you listen to country music, for example, you'll hear a lot of slide guitar. What do I mean by slide guitar? Well, it's when the player, instead of pressing down on the fretboard to make the notes, he slides a piece of glass or metal up and down the fretboard to make the notes. In that case, you would want this gap to be larger, not smaller, so that you don't rub against the frets as you slide up and down the fretboard. One important thing I should point out, although I said you want this gap between the strings and the fretboard to be as small as possible, you can go too far the other way. And if you get too close, when you try to play the guitar, you get a buzzing sound, which you don't want. So what you look for is a small gap, but a nice clean sound when you play. Well, that's the end of the lesson for today. Next time, I'll teach you how to play some of the basic chords. E, A, D, and G. Until next time then, bye.